The city lights flickered like dying stars over the quiet apartment complex. Lee Ari stood at the pinnacle of her dreams, her voice reaching millions. But in the shadows of the internet, a poison was beginning to brew. Malicious rumors spread like wildfire, turning a nation's love into a crushing hatred. The girl who once sang to the sky was now trapped in a prison of digital vitriol. Ajin could only watch helplessly as the light in his sister's eyes slowly faded away. Then came the day the world stopped for him. He ran through the crowd, his lungs burning with every desperate step. Vultures with cameras blocked his path, eager to film a tragedy for views. He screamed at them to move, but their greed was louder than his voice. A sudden silence fell over the crowd as a shadow plummeted from the sky. The sound of the impact was a sickening thud that would haunt his dreams forever. While the world moved on to the next viral moment, Ajin was left in the wreckage. 2 weeks passed in a blur of gray grief and silent corridors. Even in school, the whispers of the dead girl's scandal followed him like a curse. A note on his door lured him back to the very place where it all ended. On the rooftop, the vultures were waiting for him once again. They had dragged his only friend there, beating him into a bloody pulp. They laughed as they joked about his sister's final plunge from the ledge. Something inside Ajin finally snapped, a cord of restraint turning into a whip of fury. He didn't wait for them to move, he became the storm himself. His knee connected with the leader's jaw with a bone-shattering crack. The other thugs froze, unable to comprehend the monster they had awakened. A baseball bat swung at his head, but Ajin moved like a shadow in the wind. He countered with a punch so precise it sent the attacker spiraling into the concrete. Another bat struck his arm, but it shattered, as if hitting a pillar of iron. The last standing bully collapsed to his knees, pleading for a mercy he never gave. Ajin loomed over him, a broken piece of the bat gripped tightly in his bloodied hand. He told them to get lost, their presence a stain on the memory of this place. As he helped his friend up, the silence of the rooftop felt heavier than ever. This was not the end, it was the first drop in a sea of coming blood. He returned to the classroom, but the seat beside him remained painfully empty. Every laugh in the hallway sounded like a mockery of his grief. The redhead, Min-jae, watched him from the shadows, already planning the next viral hit. Ajin stood on the rooftop again, looking out at the vast, uncaring sky. He wondered if his sister had looked at this same horizon before she let go. His thoughts were broken when a juice box exploded against his face. The bullies had returned, emboldened by their numbers and their recording phones. They didn't realize that the boy they were hitting was no longer there. A stinging slap landed, then another, but Ajin's eyes remained fixed on the void. The bullies grew frustrated by his silence, their violence escalating into desperate strikes. In his mind, he was already elsewhere, preparing for the war that was to come. Min-jae smiled at the camera, knowing this footage would pay for his weekend. Suddenly, a sharp feminine voice cut through the air like a blade. A blue-haired woman stood there, her eyes filled with a terrifyingly calm intensity. She looked at the broken boy on the floor and asked him why he was still crawling. Ajin looked up, meeting her gaze with a spark of renewed hatred. Far away, in a high-rise office, a man named Yoongu watched the feed with a bored expression. He muttered that the kid needed to be pushed further if they wanted real entertainment. Little did they know, the brother of the fallen star was about to become their worst nightmare. The rain washes over the rooftop as Lee Ajin stands alone, staring at the spot where his world shattered. He is interrupted by the arrival of the same bullies who tormented his sister, their laughter cutting through the downpour. One bully, Guy, delivers a stinging slap across Ajin's face to provoke a reaction from the silent boy. Ajin takes the hits without resistance, his mind retreating into the traumatic memories of his sister's final moments. The redhead leader, Min-jae, records the assault, calculating the viral potential of a fallen idol's brother being beaten. After the bullies depart, leaving him broken in the rain, a pair of sharp eyes watch him from the shadows. A striking woman with blue-streaked hair approaches and calls out his name with an air of authority. Sayori demands to know why the brother of a star has allowed himself to become a punching bag for cowards. Ajin scoffs, retorting that she is just another spectator who did nothing while his sister was being destroyed. Sayori ignores his insults and reveals that she knows exactly who manufactured the lies that killed Lee Ari. The mention of his sister's name makes Ajin freeze, the weight of her words hitting him harder than any punch. She explains the dark world of cyber wreckers, predators who profit from ruining lives through fake scandals. Sayori reveals that the bullies at his school are merely drivers, low-level operatives working for these networks. She offers him a choice: continue to rot in misery or help her dismantle the system that took everything from him. Ajin stares at her hand, the conflict between his self-loathing and his burning desire for justice visible on his face. Shiori tells him that being a victim won't bring his sister back, but being a weapon might stop the next tragedy. Later that week, Ajin watches Min-jae from the back of the classroom, seeing the bully in a terrifying new light. Min-jae is busy coordinating with a mysterious contact on his phone, oblivious to the predator watching him. Bean, the timid accomplice, notices Ajin's stare and begins to sweat, feeling the shift in the atmosphere. Shiori appears at the school gates on her motorbike, attracting stares from the students as she waits for Ajin. She takes him to a secluded, high-tech safe house hidden in the mountains, far from the prying eyes of the city. Inside, Ajin sees walls of monitors displaying data on various influencers and upcoming celebrities. He spots a family portrait of Shiori and realizes she too was a victim of the same malicious industry. Shiori admits that her parents' dumpling factory was ruined by a fabricated food safety scandal. The memory of her parents' tragedy binds them together in a shared mission of vengeance. She shows him a file on Geico TV, the main channel responsible for the final push that drove Ari to the edge. Ajin recognizes the tactics used, distorted interviews, and out-of-context photos designed to incite hate. Shiori declares that from today, Ajin will be her driver, the one who goes into the field to gather the truth. Back at school, Bean is cornered by Min-jae, who senses that his informant is becoming unreliable. Min-jae reveals a new plan to frame Ajin as an abuser to further destroy the family's reputation. From a distance, Shiori observes the interaction through a pair of binoculars, recording everything. She calls Ajin and warns him that the drivers are moving to execute a new phase of their operation. Ajin realizes he cannot just be a witness anymore, he must become a participant in this shadow war. In a dark office, the mysterious figure known as Junggu reviews the latest footage of Ajin, looking displeased. Junggu orders his men to target Ajin's hospitalized mother to force the boy out into the open. Ajin receives a cryptic photo of his mother's hospital room and realizes the danger has escalated beyond the school walls. He ignores his fear and begins to sprint toward the hospital, his resolve hardening with every step. Shiori follows him from a distance, coordinating a backup plan to intercept the thugs. As Ajin reaches the hospital ward, he finds the door ajar and the sound of a camera shutter clicking inside. He pushes the door open to find a man looming over his mother's bed, holding a phone with a live stream already active. Ajin stares at the man looming over his mother, his breath hitching as the live stream camera light flickers. He lunges forward, but Shiori's hand catches his shoulder, grounding him before he can commit a mistake. Shiori whispers that a spear without a tip is just a stick, and right now, he is far too blunt. They exit the hospital under the cover of rain, leaving the shadow of the cyber-wreckers behind for a moment. The car winds through a mountain pass, eventually stopping before a traditional dojo hidden in the mist. A disheveled man with a wild beard steps out, tossing a wooden staff at Ajin without a word. The staff strikes Ajin's ribs before he can even blink, sending him sprawling into the dirt. Master Jerry laughs, claiming that if he can't catch a piece of wood, he'll never catch a killer. Jerry orders Ajin to run 15 kilometers down the mountain and back before breakfast. Ajin doesn't complain, he simply begins to run, his sister's memory fueling every step. Hours later, he collapses at the dojo gates, his lungs burning like fire. Jerry dumps a bucket of ice water over him and tells him the real training starts now. Inside the dojo, the air is thick with the scent of old wood and incense. Jerry teaches him that a driver doesn't just fight, he predicts the enemy's momentum. He launches a series of kicks that Ajin must dodge using only his intuition. Each failure results in a stinging slap or a sharp jab from the master's fingers. Shiori watches from the rafters, her eyes fixed on Ajin's slow but steady improvement. Jerry explains the psychology of the cyber-wrecker, noting that they feed on the panic of their victims. To beat them, Ajin must become a void that swallows their provocations whole. The training montage accelerates, showing days of sweat, blood, and broken boards. He learns the shadow step, a movement technique designed to close distances in silence. Jerry pulls a real blade, testing Ajin's nerve in the face of lethal force. The blade whistles through the air, inches from Ajin's throat as he sidesteps. For the first time, Ajin catches Jerry's wrist and twists, locking the master in place. Jerry nods, admitting the boy has finally grown a pair of fangs. At night, Ajin sits on the dojo roof, looking at a picture of his sister on his phone. He realizes that the person he used to be is dead, buried under the weight of this mountain. Shiori joins him, handing him a new phone with a secure, encrypted network. She tells him the cyber wreckers have made their next move and it involves his school. A new viral video has surfaced, mocking his mother's condition and claiming she's faking it for sympathy. Ajin's grip on the phone tightens until the screen begins to crack. They must return to the city immediately to stop the next scheduled livestream. Master Jerry watches them leave, tossing Ajin a pair of weighted combat gloves. He warns Ajin that the city is a jungle, and he is the new predator in town. The car speeds through the night, a black streak against the neon lights of Seoul. Shiori explains that the livestream is happening at an abandoned warehouse near the school. They arrive at the location, a massive, rusted structure silhouetted against the dark sky. Ajin uses his new training to slip through a ventilation shaft, completely undetected. Below him, he sees Yoongu holding a phone, laughing as he prepares to humiliate a bound captive. Ajin prepares to jump, but his heart stops when he recognizes the captive's face as his only remaining friend. Ajin leaps from the rooftop ledge with his heart pounding against his ribs. He stares at the captive's mangled face and realizes it is his only remaining friend, Bean. The thugs surrounding his friend laugh as if human suffering is nothing more than cheap entertainment. Ajin's fear evaporates, replaced by a freezing resolve that numbs his fingertips. He moves before the first bully can even finish his mocking sentence. A single knee strike to the leader's jaw sends the man sprawling backward into the darkness. He catches a swinging bat with his bare arm and doesn't even flinch as the wood shatters. The remaining attackers scatter like rats when they see the murderous light in his eyes. He helps the trembling Bean to his feet, but his phone buzzes with an unknown number. The screen displays a photo of a man's hand resting on his mother's hospital bed. The voice on the other end is Gay, taunting him with the location of the hospital ward. Ajin sprints through the city streets, his lungs burning with every frantic breath. He arrives at the hospital entrance, the sterile white lights feeling like a blinding assault. The corridors are eerily quiet as he navigates toward the intensive care unit. He bursts into his mother's room, only to find the towering figure of Yoongu sitting by the window. Yoongu slowly stands up, his massive frame casting a shadow over the unconscious woman. Ajin's body freezes as he realizes Yoongu is not just a bully, but a trained killing machine. The monster pulls out a camera and asks Ajin to choose between his mother's safety and his own pride. "Don't you dare touch her," Ajin whispers, his voice low and vibrating with hidden power. Yoongu laughs and delivers a stinging slap to Guy, who is standing uselessly in the corner. He turns back to Ajin and declares that every lie told about his sister was his own creation. The realization that this man profited from his sister's suicide makes Ajin's blood boil. Without thinking, Ajin throws a desperate punch toward the giant's grinning face. Junggu catches the fist effortlessly, his hand completely engulfing Ajin's small knuckles. With a slow, sickening squeeze, Yoongu forces Ajin to his knees on the cold floor. "You are still just a child playing hero," Yoongu sneers before shoving him away. Ajin collapses against the wall, watching the monsters leave with a mocking wave. The silence of the room is broken only by the steady beep of the heart monitor. In the shadows of the corner, he imagines his sister's spirit asking why he is still so weak. He wipes the blood from his lip and realizes he cannot fight these demons as a human. Suddenly, Shiori appears at the window, her expression uncharacteristically grim. She tells him that his mother has already been moved to a safe location by her allies. Ajin looks at the empty bed and realizes the woman there was just a decoy. The weight on his chest lightens for a second, but Shiori's next words bring it back. She explains that Yoongu is planning a live-stream execution of his reputation at school tomorrow. They are going to frame him as the one who drove his own sister to the rooftop. Ajin stands tall, his posture no longer that of a victim, but of a hunter. He asks Shiori for the final part of his training to be completed tonight. They leave the hospital together, their silhouettes disappearing into the rainy night. Little does he know, Yoongu is watching them from a black sedan across the street, laughing into his phone. The black sedan carrying Yoongu peels away from the curb with a screech of tires. Lee Ajin stands by his mother's hospital window, his reflection ghostly against the glass. He pulls his hood up, the fabric shadowing eyes that burn with a new purpose. Shiori waits for him in the corridor, leaning against the cold white wall. She hands him a tablet displaying a complex web of connected shell companies. The name Blue Whale sits at the center of the digital spider web. Shiori explains that this isn't just a group of random trolls, but a coordinated profit machine. Ajin realizes his sister was just a statistic in their quarterly revenue report. They leave the hospital, disappearing into the neon-soaked rain of the city. Their first stop is a dilapidated internet cafe in the slums of the district. Inside, rows of young men sit in a trance, typing out venom for pennies. This is the bottom of the food chain, the click farm workers of the Blue Whale. Shiori points toward a locked steel door at the back of the room. Ajin doesn't wait for a key, slamming his boot into the lock mechanism. The door flies open to reveal a hidden server room, manned by a panicked manager. Ajin grabs the man by his tie, lifting him off the ground with one hand. He demands the location of the Blue Whale's regional headquarters. The manager stammers about a corporate building in the Gangnam district. Shiori begins downloading data from the central terminal, while Ajin keeps watch. Files appear on screen, showing the systematic harassment campaign against the fallen idol. Ajin sees a photo of his sister crying at a press conference, used as a thumbnail for a hate video. The grief instantly hardens back into a diamond-sharp rage. Suddenly, the alarm system triggers, bathing the room in a pulsating red light. Shiori tells him the download is only at 60% and she needs more time. Heavy footsteps echo from the internet cafe as security guards approach. Ajin steps forward, cracking his knuckles as he blocks the entrance. The first guard lunges with a baton, but Ajin pivots with lethal grace. He delivers a palm strike to the guard's chin, sending him crashing into a server rack. Two more guards rush in, but Ajin uses the wall to launch a devastating kick. Shiori remains calm, her fingers flying across the keys despite the chaos behind her. The download hits 100% and Shiori yanks the drive out. They fight their way out through the emergency exit as more backup arrives. Back in their safe house, they open the decrypted files to reveal the true masterminds. The documents link the Blue Whale network to a major entertainment conglomerate. It was a cleanup operation to destroy rivals and boost their own talents' rankings. Ajin finds the name of the executive who signed off on the character assassination. He realizes that the war is much bigger than just a few internet trolls. Shiori warns him that attacking a conglomerate is like declaring war on a small country. Ajin replies that he doesn't care about the size of the enemy, only the weight of their sins. As they prepare their next move, a silent notification pings on Ajin's phone. The message is a live video feed of his mother's hospital room door, slowly being pushed open. The heavy iron door of the hideout creaks as Ajin pushes it open into the darkness. A foul stench of rot and neglect hits them instantly, thick enough to taste in the stagnant air. Shiori grips her tactical baton tightly, her eyes darting between the shadows and the closed doors. They move deeper into the labyrinthine facility, each step echoing against the cold concrete floors. A sudden movement in the periphery catches Ajin's attention as a hooded figure bolts toward an exit. Without a second thought, Ajin launches into a full sprint to intercept the fleeing scout. Shiori signals for a shortcut, her mind already mapping the escape routes of the facility. They corner the lackey near a dead end, finding him trembling and begging for safety rather than a fight. The boy reveals that Min-jae has been hiding in the same building, abandoned by his own crew. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Ajin and Shiori return to the main hideout to finish the search. Ajin approaches a locked room at the end of the hall, the silence behind it feeling heavy and unnatural. Upon breaking the lock, they discover a group of kidnapped runaways huddled together in fear. Shiori quickly reassures the victims that help is on the way, her voice softening for the first time. Ajin continues the sweep, his instincts leading him toward the back of the facility's bathroom area. He kicks open the final stall to find Min-jae slumped against the wall, a broken and mangled version of his former self. The red-haired bully can barely open his eyes, his once arrogant face now a canvas of pain. Ajin stares down at the man who ruined his sister's life, feeling a strange void where his rage used to be. Min-jae begins to sob, his voice cracking as he begs for mercy from the boy he once tormented. Shiori arrives and immediately begins documenting the scene, the flash of her camera illuminating the darkness. This was the evidence they needed to permanently dismantle the network and clear Liari's name. Suddenly, the sound of sirens erupts from the street above, signaling the arrival of the authorities. Yukyong leads the police tactical team into the building, her expression focused and professional. The runaways are carefully escorted out of their cells, finally breathing the air of freedom. Ajin watches the chaos, realizing that the long nightmare is finally drawing to an end. Master Jerry arrives on the scene, placing a heavy, supportive hand on Ajin's shoulder. "You did well," the master whispers, his eyes showing a deep respect for the boy's growth. Shiori hands the gathered evidence to the police, ensuring that Gaiko and Yungu have no place to hide. As the sun begins to rise, the truth about Lee Ari's innocence starts to spread across the news. Ajin stands on the same rooftop where it all began, but this time, he is not alone. He looks up at the sky, feeling a gentle breeze that seems to carry a sense of forgiveness. Sayori smiles at him, her blue hair radiant in the morning light, as she marks the start of their new lives. The shadow driver has completed his final mission, but the path ahead is now illuminated by hope. In the hospital, Ajin's mother finally opens her eyes to see her son holding her hand. They share a moment of silent understanding, the weight of the past finally lifted from their shoulders. The Blue Whale Network broadcasts a final special report, exposing every villain involved in the conspiracy. Public opinion shifts entirely, as the people who once mocked Lee Ari now mourn her with genuine regret. Ajin walks through the city streets, no longer a ghost in the shadows, but a man with a future. He stops at a small dumpling shop, ordering a serving with a nostalgic smile. He knows that wherever his sister is, she is finally at peace watching over them. Justice has been served and the path of the shadow driver finally leads to the light.